This episode of the HR Leaders Podcast is brought to you by our friends at Remote. Remote empowers companies of all sizes to pay and manage full-time and contract workers around the world. They take care of international payroll, benefits, taxes, stock options, and compliance in dozens of countries. Their team is on the ground on every continent, building culturally aware employment packages that help you build trust with your global team. Their intellectual property protections and industry-leading security is guaranteed to give you peace of mind across the globe. Click the link in the description now to download Remote's free global payroll guide and learn how to manage global payroll for your team and keep your company compliant with international labor laws. Remote, the new standard in global benefits. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the HR Leaders Podcast, the show where we discuss the future of work with industry experts and HR executives from the world's leading global brands. Today, we're joined by Nadia Vatalidis, who's the Director of People at Remote. Welcome, Nadia. How are you?
Good, Chris. So good to be here nearly a year later.
I know. It's crazy, right? First and foremost, how tidy is your background? Surely it isn't that tidy all the time. Come on, be honest.
I know. We just chatted about this, right? And usually there's like crayons and cookies and highlighters from kids making school projects or plates or jackets. Yeah, so you're right. I made sure today you got the clean view and no washing rails in the background.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, congratulations on the new role. What an exciting company to be part of. It's so funny how obviously you was at GitLab before, who pretty much wrote the playbook on remote work and still offer so much value in that space. And now you're working for a company called Remote. So tell us how that happened.
Yeah, great question. And it's been such an amazing journey. I sent Sid and Carol, my previous leaders, an email the other day to say to them that I don't think I would have been in this role if it wasn't for my experience at GitLab and that sort of amazing journey into this asynchronous remote space. And I think I learned so much there, the basics as well, because I started as a recruiter at GitLab. And I think that journey was just such an incredible sort of eye-opener into the global world and what's out there. It also got me out of the very local sort of, I nearly want to say oversaturated South African space. So that's been super cool. And working with Job has been incredible, our CEO here at Remote. He was my VP of product back in the day when I was a recruiter at GitLab many years ago. So it's been incredible to work with him again. And I'm enjoying what we're building. I specifically think that there's two sides to this, right? Remote is building all these amazing entities directly to let companies hire anywhere in the world. But the part that excites me the most is part of the reason I was able to join GitLab is that back in the day was that we're opening opportunities for very rural talent in locations that's potentially not as accessible and where Silicon Valley startups or amazing UK-based startups don't hire. And so I think the opportunity that brings to incredible talent around the world really excites me. I have folks on my team that are located in rural Mexico or somewhere in the Philippines. And I'm just excited that it's no longer just metropolitan cities, but all over the world. And being part of this journey is incredible.
Yeah. And for everyone listening, so Remote was a partner of yours whilst you was at the organization, right? So it must be quite interesting to one, being a customer of Remote, now sitting in the seat, leading the people team. That must be pretty cool.
Yeah. I got to I had this opportunity to get involved with international expansion at GitLab. And we literally had 20 or 30 countries that we were thinking through converting either to entities or to these professional employment models or an EOR or a contractor model or whatever is compliant and socially acceptable in that location, right? And we reviewed a ton of vendors. We had, amazing vendors there as well. But something that stood out about Remote was certainly the pace and how they collaborated and partnered with us to unblock locations that we were really struggling with and that needed to move really quickly. So that excited me. But I also like a product tech company. I've always enjoyed the product side of tech. And so the fact that we're building a really cool platform that makes that onboarding journey very seamless, very fluid, very compliant, no documentation sort of flying over emails, which, as we all know, with personal data is never a good idea. So I really enjoyed the interaction. I also enjoyed the people that was working with me on some of those projects on the other side. So it's been quite incredible to come over and now being on the vendor side of GitLab. I still have great connections with GitLab. I still love their people and love what they're building and where they're heading. So it's been nice to also follow their journey from a different angle.
So on to today's obviously topic, talking about the day-to-day leadership in a remote first future. What's the biggest challenges of leading remote teams? Because many managers and leaders, including myself, have been thrown into this position, whether we liked it or not. And it's challenging, right?
To me, it comes down to two key things that you probably need in any company anyway. And I think if you're not creating the right sense of belonging, as well as that social connection, I think everything else starts falling apart. So, and if I talk about belonging, that's a topic all on its own, probably for another day. But I think those two things, social connection and belonging, in all the things a leader will do, will impact that team and whether that team is going to be successful in being able to work together day to day. So I think that's been an incredible challenge that I've seen from organizations that just doesn't know how to do this in a sort of remote first or even hybrid model, and potentially trying to just adapt that typical in-office experience directly over Zoom, which isn't going to work and it's just not going to scale. So those are the challenges I think a lot of leaders have faced. There's a lot more, like the way you hire is different, the way you onboard is different. So we can definitely deep dive into these topics as well today.
Let's get into a few of those, because I think the belonging piece is important, and you are right, that could be an entire episode. But in your experience at GitLab and now at remote, how do you create a culture of belonging when you're remote?
I think the first thing is it directly influences your inclusion aspect. So I feel like belonging is a topic that can't go without the rest of that, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And then the one piece that often is missing from that whole area is social connection, right? So to me, all of these go together, and it starts from your hiring journey all the way through to your onboarding journey. A piece about belonging that you could start working on is the way you interact with your team, the way you are building social connection day to day. Things like, what are you doing in your team to make sure folks are actually getting to know each other? I see a lot of companies, having these back-to-back Zoom calls without their cameras on. Totally okay. But I don't know how much they're learning about each other. I don't know how much trust there is between the human side behind all those folks that's doing this right now. And so something that I'm doing in my team that's working really well, and a lot of our leaders at Remote is advocating for this, is every week when we have our weekly meeting, we only have one, weekly meeting as a whole team. We actually kick it off with a bit of social connection. And to ensure that this doesn't sort of sit with Nadia alone and me always having to advocate and sort of the one being the one that's talking, I've created it in such a way that my whole team is responsible for social connection. And so every person in my team has an opportunity to host our weekly meeting. And that starts with a small icebreaker activity, fun topic, question, whatever you want, as that first sort of, now it's longer than 7 minutes because we're slightly more people, but probably 10 to 15 minutes of a call, right? And this is in small teams that it works well. I think in larger teams, it becomes harder. What that's created is people are generally getting to know each other. They're getting to know what they like. They're getting to see trends and overlap of interests and things that they wouldn't have necessarily known unless we were actively asking these questions and speaking about it. It also gives everyone a chance to show up in the call. And by show up, I mean truly like being engaged and being available and listening. I think my number one, it's not a rule, but it's definitely something that's worked, is if we all show up in the same way, we're all going to engage. If we all show up in different ways, we're not going to engage. So if half the team's cameras are always off during the call and the other half is always on, there's sort of that sense of someone else is continuing to work on something else and they've just stopped engaging and moved on to a different topic, right? So I like that without me ever having to say it out loud. folks are showing up in the same way to these calls. And so we're all engaged in a similar level. I also don't like using, that time to unblock problems. I like unblocking problems asynchronously, and we certainly shouldn't be waiting for a meeting. So just having that social connection time and then pivoting to more serious topics or things that's genuinely blocking someone does actually create an amazing sense of belonging. There's many, many other things that you can do as a company to create that. And that leans, I think, heavily onto the sort of cultural diversity side, the representation you have across the org, including in leadership levels. I'm extremely proud of this, but we're still 50% female at Remote. I'd love to see this number stay as we scale. We're going through hypergrowth.
50% female?
Yeah.
Wow. In a tech company, that's almost unheard of.
When I joined, when we were 70 odd people, I started out like that. So I started with this amazing foundation already set out for us. But I think keeping it is harder, right? Making sure that you maintain that is way harder. So that's been incredible. We now need to work on how do we maintain that? How do we further create representation of all these amazing hundreds of cultures that we already have at Remote?
You mentioned earlier asynchronous work. I think you've also spoken in the past about how asynchronous work could contribute to managing stress levels amongst teams. Could you elaborate a bit on that for everyone?
Yeah, great question. I'll just, check on how people identify with this.
Yeah, that's a good point.
What it means to different folks.
Yeah.
So synchronous work is basically working together, and asynchronous work is not working together at the same time. So a lot of folks still think async is like async on Slack. That's still working synchronously together at the same time, right? And I think, so to me, that's the difference. But async, the reason why it creates a lot of safety and trust and also less anxiety is that I can go and work on something that, and even we have this amazing value called transparency. So I can even work on it while other people are potentially seeing it. And even if it's still a work in progress, I can work on it while other people are working on something else, and then share it with them regardless of their time zone, regardless of where they're located, and they can review it when they're available in their day. It unblocks so many problems. I've often seen folks over-escalate. I've seen this in many organizations where people tend to over-escalate and nearly either run to their manager or run to their peers with very basic problems. But what async also does, it gives you that opportunity to solve a problem yourself and being empowered to do so because it's async. So knowing that, let's say I'm located in Japan and you're located here in South Africa, I don't need to wait for you to wake up to solve this issue or start working on this project. I can just start working on it. And when you wake up, you can give me feedback and we can keep making it better together, right? But I still don't see enough companies leaning into async. I see a lot of companies even creating sort of hubs of time zones. I'm not sure how healthy that is long-term and how inclusive that is. Something else that's genuinely helped is just rotating calls. So our all hands call on a Wednesday is no longer just aligned for sort of, Americas or EMEA. We now rotate it. So every Wednesday, it's either at sort of late EMEA, morning Americas. Next Wednesday, it's very early EMEA aligned with APAC. And that way, it includes everyone in the organization. There will be folks that still sometimes have to lean in, considering their day might just be starting at at UTC plus 15 or something to that effect. But continuously advocating for those things does make sure that you no longer have to plan according to these little hubs. You can really hire anyway and just create really great guidelines on how to include those folks. And that also, again, leans into async. Someone in New Zealand can be handling crucial customer queries while your Pacific time zone folks have just gone to bed and your EMEA time zone folks haven't woken up yet. And I think, that creates these great sort of global teams. Again, that I don't think companies have leaned into yet. I'm seeing them sort of leaning towards it, but not what I would expect in terms of true async and global diversity.
What can we do to support employees who don't like working remotely? Because it's not for everyone.
Yeah, I don't think it's for everyone. There will still be folks that sort of want to work in an office, I think that the first step is advocating for two different things, right? The one is, do you have a stipend or some sort of budget towards co-working offices? Some people really have that need to be surrounded by people and to sort of experience that busyness and noisiness and smell of coffee in an office setup. And you can still create that with a co-working space. So if you're not offering a stipend right now and your company is remote, and some folks have indicated that they prefer an office, it's totally okay to just offer a stipend towards that, regardless of where they're located. But on the flip side, if you have a really great setup at home, that's the other key piece, right? A lot of folks think they, working remotely is sitting at their sort of kitchen tables or at their lounge or on a couch. Long term, that's just not, it's just not going to work. You're going to start sort of creating back pain, headaches, you're going to be uncomfortable. I don't think you'll be as productive in a space that you're not sort of well set up. So the economics of that is super important. So I think those are key starts. The other thing is, you're right, it isn't for everyone, and letting those folks go is okay. I don't mean firing them. I mean setting them free to go and find something that is in office. There are certainly companies out there that cannot work remotely, not because they don't want to, but because their industry or the services they provide just doesn't cater for that. So there's lots of opportunities for both.
Does that mean that you don't consider them, though, in your own hiring?
I wouldn't say we don't consider them. We just don't have any offices anywhere. So we don't have a physical building where someone can go and work from. It's just not a hybrid model. What we do have is we advocate for using those co-working spaces in their locations. But we're not planning to open, any offices anywhere. So that would be setting up someone for failure if we try and sell that as an opportunity.
What would you say to companies, though, because I'm speaking to so many CHROs every day now, slowly returning to the workplace, and they have that, they have a set of employees who can't wait to get back. They have set employees who are somewhere in the middle, and you have others who just don't want to return whatsoever. What advice would you give to your colleagues listening for that population who don't want to go back to the office?
Yeah, there's a difference between work from home, right? So working remotely from home and remote first. You can still apply remote first practices and methodologies to a hybrid model. So, but there's a few things that you need to keep in mind, right? So if you're going to be doing that hybrid thing where some of your people want to stay sort of at home and some wants to go back to the office, I would suggest that just make sure your leaders are advocating for that and are inclusive and make decisions based on those decisions, right? So a good example is if you're a CEO or a CTO of an organization that's in hybrid, you should also work from home a few days a week. Because if you don't, the expectations would be to become a leader at the organization, they have to be in office. And so that creates that weird A-B team scenario that I've seen very, very often, especially at this phase, right? We're sort of 20 months or longer into this pandemic. And as folks returning, I can already see this like team A, team B forming in many organizations. And I think to avoid that is just document everything. Make folks join, meetings from their own laptops. Make sure those meetings are time zone inclusive. Let your leaders work from home as well and advocate for it and represent that. I think that would go a long way. There's a lot more in terms of remote first. Again, I always say this is a topic I can talk about for hours and that I'm so passionate about. But even the way you do performance reviews, right? You should keep that in a remote first practice if you're letting some folks work from home and some folks work from the office, which means if it's async and remote first, what tools are you going to use to complete those? Is some going to be in person and some going to be online? Because that just won't be fair. That just won't create a fair, equal opportunity for anyone.
Yeah. And I'm seeing this actually with friends and family. I'm sure a lot of people listening can also relate. Like a lot of my friends and family are saying, I have to go in because I may miss out on that job, that promotion, or I don't get the face-to-face time with my senior leadership team, so I may miss opportunities, et cetera, or that information is not filtering throughout the organization remotely. So if you don't go in, you're missing out on vital information that you're not, or projects, et cetera. So I'm already seeing that happen. And if we talk about inclusion as well. So yeah, there's this added pressure for people to go back who may not necessarily want to.
And hybrid is way harder. I personally will probably struggle with it, Chris. I'm such an advocate to, work from anywhere and work remotely and the future of this. But at the same time, I recognize that it's really hard. It's certainly not going to be easy to all of a sudden have everything available async. So why are you at the office? And that could potentially then lead to bigger decisions later where the team, that is in the office sort of will get, I don't want to say less opportunity, but that CEO might just realize it's time to give up the office space if there's nothing specifically that's keeping them there. I think the water cooler chat is healthy. I personally always miss that. Someone asked me recently on Twitter, like, what do you miss most about working in an office? That's 5 years or 6 years ago for me, right? But I mean, I love having pizza around the table on a Friday and everyone's kind of very casual and having fun and celebrating what's happened that week and ending the week on a really positive note. But other than that, I don't miss the other things. I also certainly don't miss the drive and the commute into the office. But I think for some folks that did bring sort of either their routine really worked for them. Could they start building a better routine, while working remotely? Possibly. And I think what folks experienced during this remote forced work from home phase has certainly not been how I've experienced it the last 5 to 6 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I actually realized only a few months ago that talking about the commute, I had to really focus on recreating that because I realized that was my way to de-stress and just reset from work. Whereas before I was just like blending, like my day ended and I was just, or actually my day didn't even end. I just found myself working and it got really, really unhealthy and it started affecting my anxiety and other things like that as well. So I've had to be very intentional now about how I end my day. And what's your practice? How do you separate work and life, if there is such a thing, when you're literally at home? What routine? I'm sure you maybe have a routine or some tips for everyone.
Yeah. I think boundaries is the first one. So I agree and I recognize what you're saying. It's so easy to just continue working, right? So the number one thing is like take control of your calendar. I love that at Remote, it's not frowned upon that my entire calendar has got all my personal stuff in as well. So if I'm going to the GP for a checkup or if I'm skateboarding with the kids, like something you like doing en route to school, to your school drop off, or, if I'm going for a run or doing yoga or whatever, that's all in my calendar, including my family time. So there are times where I'm like, do not schedule, this is family time. And setting those boundaries actually helps folks realizing that you're human and you have a limit, regardless in what role you're in. I think a lot of executives tend to just leave all that space open, and they're also advocating and showing that as an example to the rest of the organization. So if they're always available, everyone else seems to think they need to be always available as well. So that's the first section, I think, like just managing your calendar properly and just being very clear about when someone can schedule with you and when they can't. I do leave overlap for all time zones. So I do make sure that there's always time available in, my mornings, early mornings for APAC, and early evenings for Pacific time zone once or twice a week to make sure those folks can also engage with me. But something else is just you need a dedicated workspace. I've seen so many folks, including my family and friends.
My office is in my bedroom, by the way. So I'm a terrible
really
culprit.
Hard.
I know it's so bad. I'm a terrible culprit. Like my desk is there and my bed is there. And I hate it with a passion of waking up and seeing work, basically, like the place that I sit and do work, and then end up just coming into the office just to escape because I just didn't like that setup.
Yeah. And I experienced that a little bit. So during lockdown, Chris, my hubby, took over my original GitLab office. I had a full outbuilding. And he was just like, I can't work in the house. The kids are so noisy. You keep coming into the kitchen, like the kettle, this. And I was just like, listen, you take that, like, do your thing. And I was stuck in our bedroom. And he actually recently had to build a drywall into this wall so that our hallway doesn't lead straight to my desk. Otherwise, you would have had 2 tweens visiting us today, right? And taking your show over. But I feel like you have to make a small space. And if you don't have space at home, that's potentially the key time to look at a nice co-working space or a spot that you can work from. If you're in a small enough space, it's also not mentally fun to be at home the whole day. And I get that. So I think just making sure you evaluate your own personal situation, your own boundaries, your own space. I love leaving the space at night and moving very far away from it. And that way I can carry on and do other things. Also like scheduling things outside of work, after work, because that way it's a great way to stop working. So if I'm going to do a fun family call or play soccer outside with the kids, I literally put it in my calendar. And it nearly helps mentally with like knowing, oh my gosh, I told Angelo I'm going to play soccer.
That's a good idea. I need to start doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Am I right? This is a bit off topic. No, not really. It is on topic. I read on your LinkedIn profile, because I love stalking the guests, is that you do a painting, a Zoom art session. Did I make that up?
You're lucky. I have it on my desk. And this
you do?
Prepared,
okay, let me see.
I kid lab. This was such a cool experience.
Oh, so you actually have the painting with you?
I know. One of my colleagues did
that's cool. That's really nice.
Yeah, this was so fun. She got a live artist to do a whole, I wouldn't say async, but a whole recording on like how to do this type of art. Now, I am not that creative, but I find it's extremely relaxing, and I want to do way more of this, especially with remote teams. This is a really fun, inexpensive way to literally, engage everyone and do something completely outside of the norm. But it also stops you while you're doing like a social exercise from touching your keyboard, because you cannot be painting near anything.
You can't paint and do work.
Exactly,
and
right?
At the same time.
Exactly. Yeah. And this leads to something else, Chris. And now that you're talking about this stuff, at Remote, we started using VR. And initially I was like, because I'm not a huge gamer, my kids are. I mean, I have to play Bee Swarm on Roblox and I struggle. My little person keeps going in the wrong direction. It's really funny. And I'm very, very sports orientated. So I'd much rather be outside than game on a weekend. But anyway, I've sort of adopted gaming so that I can, spend time with them and the things that they enjoy as well. But we started using VR at Remote before I joined. And I kept wondering, what is it about it that could really work? And even for training and development and really fun engagement sessions, why would it work? And it's exactly that. It's that time away from your computer and your keyboard. Because no matter what you're hosting, even if you have a leadership enablement program, if it's in Zoom, folks might just default to starting to check their emails, starting to type something, respond on Slack, respond to client query, urgent message. Like you literally nearly need to take someone sort of outside of that to get them to engage. And with social connection, that's more important, right? You want someone and everyone to sort of be in the room together, if they can't be physically together. And so I think those things are crucial to recognize. That's why I enjoyed the painting so much.
Nice.
Yeah, that was really special.
Just while we're on the topic, is it just a leadership team that has the VR headsets and you use it for, what are the use cases? Like what are you using it for?
Yeah, right now we're in a tricky spot. VR, the Oculus Q2, or I'm trying to think which model we have, but we've run out of stock globally, and we actually.
Yeah, I'm about to say they're hard to get hold of Oculus Quest. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. It's an Oculus Quest 2. And I think it's been really tricky with our hypergrowth to get these devices to everyone. So we're currently actually working on a solution for that. We would love the entire company to each have a VR. It's not just leadership. And someone on my team, our documentation and internal communications partner, is actually working on a small rec room that has Remote logos and things in. So where that can go in future, I'm excited about. I would love to also use that space for L&D, especially a really fun topic or something where you really want folks to, again, be in the same room, super engaged. And if someone doesn't enjoy the headset, they can join sort of via 2D on a...
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, they are impossible to get. I'm a gamer and my team are big gamers and we can't even get hold of them. So definitely. One thing I want to ask you is, one of the struggles I'm hearing from your colleagues as well is about focusing on outcomes over hours when managing workloads remotely. Because in the past, right, you've got the 9 to 5, which no longer exists, and you're managing the time people are in the office. And a lot of our technology and structure was based around that, which is obviously dates back all the way to the Industrial Revolution. It's very outdated. How do you manage work and managing workloads remotely? What have you found that works best?
Yeah. My top tip would be to simplify things. And this is so hard. Traditional and very corporate companies have got sort of very stringent processes. I really like dumbing those down and just removing all the fluff. So if you think about, if you did something, let's take a really brief example. If your relocations process had 42 steps, it's probably time to review that and get it down to 20, right? Or something like that, where you just need to keep focusing on simplifying your processes. For people in HR teams, this is the most crucial part, because that way, if you only have 5 minutes, you can do a lot in 5 minutes or 30 minutes versus what previously would have taken you 2 or 3 hours. So I think simplifying things has really worked for us. And sometimes when someone also comes to me with a problem on my team, or even another company that reaches out and just wants to chat through something, I usually, ask the question like, what is the simplest way to fix that? Because sometimes throwing very overly complex processes or complex solutions at it just adds to that time it's going to take to fix or solve something. And then I'm still an automations freak. Like GitLab built that into me the day I joined. And so learning in a people environment, in an HR environment, what really fluid integrations and automation can do for you. If you apply that to multiple teams, so if you think about your internal operations team or your people and HR team, or your engineers should already have that kind of mindset.
Yeah, they probably do. Yeah,
and they do at the most, which is awesome. So I often sort of really borrow from engineering and product to see how we can apply that into other things. We've been so fortunate that in the last 7 to 8 months, in very close collaboration with my team, we've been able to automate the human side of onboarding, and even the tactical sort of manual tasks that my team have to perform to get someone on board. We've literally automated 70% of that. And that's made such a big difference. We can now spend time on engagement. We can spend time on designing the sort of employee experience around that, instead of being stuck behind data capturing or inputting of something. So
also improves the candidate experience too, right? Yeah. By doing all of those things. So it works on both ends. Something you've spoken about before is, is there a way to manage unlimited PTO, or is this a corporate myth?
I think unlimited PTO with no guidelines is looking for trouble. People just don't know how much to take. They've never been exposed to it. For many, right? I've been very fortunate. You might have been. A few amazing people at other companies might have been. But I think if it's new to the organization and to their employees, you have to put clear guidelines. We love setting a minimum. So we've set a minimum of 20 days. Over time, I'd love to see that increase. And I'm hoping to even advocate and influence on that, right? But setting a minimum helps folks to say, okay, if you're taking under that, it's too low. I would also advocate for remote first or hybrid companies to start tracking that if they have unlimited time off, what is that minimum and is the average too low? Because that can certainly be a side effect if you're not checking on the data. You can use great apps for that, or you can literally just, look at the time all folks have taken and work out the averages. But I think overall, folks, anyone should not be taking under 20 to 30 days a year. There's no max, not at remote, not at, you mentioned unlimited PTO, probably also from my GitLab days, but there's no max here at remote. And again, we don't see abuse. I started tracking averages recently, one, because we have to report on those for compliance reasons in many European and other countries. But the second reason is I wanted to make sure people at remote are taking enough time off. And that is also a leadership topic. If their direct leaders, their HR teams, their CEOs aren't taking sufficient time off, that's a whole different issue, right? That means they're not advocating for it. And part of the time off aspect does come from clear sort of disconnection. I don't see that enough either. So if you have unlimited time off, make sure that you're sort of advocating for complete disconnection and being very implicit and very intentional about, this person shouldn't be on Slack while they're on vacation. They shouldn't take their laptop with. Even if there's a chance they might be stranded in another country, that's okay. They're in COVID, right? But I feel, that need to speak a little bit about CEOs that go on vacation and then potentially just like keep using Slack as a way to communicate and keep checking. Joop was recently on vacation, and it was so nice to see that he wasn't checking Slack. He wasn't responsive. We have this fun bot that, shows that he's out of office. So people love pinging that bot just to see what happens. But
they're testing him. Is he going to reply? I also want to congratulate you on being selected as one of the top 20 best remote startups to work for as well. So congratulations.
Thank you.
To you and the team.
It's amazing to see that. Thanks, Chris. It's so amazing to see remote companies in the startup world being more recognized. I know the last 2 years has a lot to do with that, but even prior, it's really nice to see the shift towards that. Thanks.
Amazing. Well, before I let you go, I definitely got to say thanks so much for coming on the show again. And I'm super happy for you. Clearly, you found another organization which is super aligned with your values, your why, your purpose. And it was kind of meant to be, wasn't it? Really? It feels like that.
Yeah. I found a job on the internet. I grew there, and then I found the job that truly has that remote meaning.
Yeah. Not only are you getting to do it in your own organization, you're getting to work for an organization that makes this possible and empowers companies and employees all over the world to make that happen. So it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I think the last thing I will just say that it's really done is I really hope to advocate for folks like myself that's maybe stuck in a location that doesn't necessarily have Silicon Valley startup opportunities. They're out there, and you've just got to search for them. And literally, both of these opportunities would be available via Boolean strings. And so just like any other job, just add remote working to that search and then find it. So yeah,
amazing.
It's been incredible so far.
Amazing. Well, before I let you go, where can people connect with you? If they want to connect with you or find out more about remote, where's the best places?
Yeah, so they can definitely visit remote.com. We're lucky. We have the name and
that's pretty cool.
And the URL. Yeah. So remote.com, or you can reach me on LinkedIn. It's just sort of LinkedIn-Nadia Vassilides, and on Twitter it's @Nadia Vat, if I remember correctly. But yeah, please do connect. I love having conversations about this stuff. And if anyone needs help sort of to think through remote work, I also love talking about it. So if you want a 30-minute coffee chat, I'm always open to that as well.
I think you're going to get a lot of messages now. No worries. Well, listen, I'll let you go. Enjoy the rest of your day. Go and see the kids, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. All right. See ya.
You too, Chris. Take time off. See you soon.
I will. I will. Bye-bye. And bye, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. See ya. Bye.